Hey tankers, and welcome back to World of Tanks with PR154, where today we are in the Tier 8 Premium Chinese Medium Tank 122 TM. This is a tank that I've genuinely struggled with, which I guess makes it all the better when I'm able to come away with a result like we're about to witness here today. One of the first things you'll notice about the vehicle, even though it has this really nice 120mm main armament, its damage per minute is quite low, 1,430 hit points per minute as a base. And that's down to, despite hitting for 400 hit points per shot, it's got a 16.8 second base reload. So you really want to be trying to reduce that through gun rammer and various crew improvements. It does penetrate quite well, however. With its standard APCR, 233mm is what you penetrate for, which is better than the premium rounds available to some Tier 8 vehicles. Speaking of premium rounds, this one will take up to 299mm of penetration with the heat shell, so it joins a growing cohort of Tier 8 vehicles that are more than capable of holding their own in a Tier 10 engagement, or at least having some kind of meaningful impact on the battlefield by virtue of being able to penetrate their assailants. We're not too agile, but fortunately some of the mediums on our team are. We've had a Lance and C and a P44 Pantera that have been able to push into that first dip. They've been able to strip a few hit points off enemy vehicles to the point the Lance and C has been able to shut down the P44 in fairly short order. They're now rounding on the TNH 105-1000 and they're able to knock it out as well. An enemy T44 has joined in pursuit, trying to shut down our Lance and C, but we've finally been able to get into the fight. We're aiming our 120mm main armament and we shut down the T44 for our first kill of the game. We can't stay here, however. We do have to push forward and get under the gun of this Tornbarn. But having cleared the enemy out of this particular dip, and we now have the advantage on all sides. We've got vehicles that are starting to spread to the southern flank of this area as well, and that will enable us to start introducing a bit of crossfire into this engagement. The enemy P44 is beating its retreat. We're able to now use the reasonable turret armor of this vehicle to start bouncing incoming shots. Now there's a little bit of a risk to that because we do have some cupola weak spots. Again, the style of the turret is still somewhat vulnerable. So, and the enemy Tornbarn was able to exploit that, but the ISU 152 wasn't. Now, in exposing itself, it's been spotted and snotted by multiple vehicles there, including the Lance and C. We're poking up again, another shot into the T-34, but as the Lance and C rolls up, unfortunately they take a killing blow from an unseen enemy, the SU-130 PM. So we're just going to keep working this ridge, trying to use our decent turret armor, but also trying to stay moving so that those 160mm cupolas aren't going to become a target. We've been able to slap a shell into the Tornbarn. All the while, our friendly Tornbarn's been able to poke over and shut down the enemy T-34. This just now leaves one enemy Tornbarn. We've just lost our Pantera as well, so just got our hull downs and the IS-3 on this flank, but the heavies still very much in the fight. The Tornbarn going for it and knocking out the enemy Tornbarn for a ram kill. Score's now 6-3, very much in our favour. It's been a bit of a static operation there in the city, but it's very much the enemy that holds the initiative there. Having beaten back enemy defences initially, we're now doing our push up the zero line. We've been able to spot a couple of enemy vehicles on the way, TNH 105-1000 knocking out the enemy GSAW 1008. We're continuing to make this push. We're expecting to see enemy tank destroyers that are holed up around that C0 area, so we want to get our tank in under those guns, force them to be seen if they're going to move to engage us, but we're also conscious of a bit of crossfire from the mid. Now we've been able to get a bit of a proximity spot on the enemy GSAW, again using that 280mm plus turret armor to great effect there, bouncing a shell off the Stridsvagn S1. Rolling forward, we want to try and light these tank destroyers. There we go, and managing to shut down the GSAW 1008. We're reasonably well supported in the back by our tank destroyers, but as they're moving up, they're getting spotted. We have had our TNH 105-1000 taken out. There's the SU-130 PM in the mid as well. Stridsfarn S1, we've been able to put a shot into. Follow-up shots from our teammates have been able to knock that out as well. So really starting to clear out this zero line, although that P-44 Pantera remains at the back. The SU-130 PM will remain a pressing threat to our team. So fortunately we've got a fair bit of cover around us. We've got cover in front of us, between us and the SU-130 PM. Now it's been spotted by one of our teammates. Also the enemy TNH 105-1000 has been spotted. So a nice meaty hit into that one as we go for the reload. We're joined by the Tornvarn, who's starting to adopt a similar sort of position to ourselves. There's also an IS-3 with us. So certainly every opportunity to start assaulting the enemy base area. We're able to draw a bead on the TNH 105-1000, shutting it down for now our third kill of the game. And that SU-130 PM also becomes visible again. Now it appears to be utilising this building as cover, so getting that building out is going to leave that tank exposed, and follow-up shots from our teammates are able to send that back to the garage in fairly short order. So we have missed out on our opportunity to do damage to that vehicle, but we have enabled that kill and we have prevented it from causing further grief to our teammates. We do manage to get a shot into the enemy P-44 Pantera, and ourselves and the Tornvarn are now starting to push on it as it digs into that back corner at A0. The Tornvarn goes one way, we go the other. We're managing to get some shots into the side and rear of P-44 Pantera. But it is our ISU-152 that is pulling up to rear along the 9 line that's aiming very patiently and sends that P-44 Pantera back to the garage. This just leaves 2 enemy vehicles. Our friendly Tornvarn is in a bit of a sick hit point position, but we're on the home stretch now. We see the enemy CS-52 Lease. Tornvarn puts a shot into it, but we follow up for the kill, and our SU-101 knocks out the last enemy vehicle, that is the ISM. So we're pretty happy with that result. Let's take a look at the particulars. So for our efforts, that was an Ace Mastery badge, which meant the experience points collection in 122 TM was in the top 1% of all players in this vehicle for the last week. So we're pretty happy with that result, considering 122 TM is my worst win rate premium tier 8 vehicle. So quite reaffirming to get that result. Now, we haven't picked up any epic medals or battle heroes medals, but quite a fistful here of the badges of merit. We picked up the spotter medal for spotting enemy vehicles, enabling allies to cause at least 1,000 hit points of damage to enemy vehicles. In this case, we've spotted over 2,400 hit points worth of damage. This is largely a function of playing that hull down in close proximity to enemy vehicles, and that's enabled quite a competent backline of vehicles to really get their guns into the game and smash those opponents. We've also picked up the Shellproof medal for having total damage blocked by armor exceeding the hit points of the vehicle. In this case, nearly 1,500 hit points of damage blocked. Now, there were quite a few lucky bounces there along the way. In fact, half of our damage blocked came just from the ISU-152, but the turret on this vehicle is quite good. If you're shooting at the turret, you have a minimum effective thickness of 280 millimeters frontally. Obviously, that's going to deteriorate with some eccentricity of the turret. 280 millimeters frontally, and if you're able to use its full 8 degrees of gun depression, it just gets better and better should the point of impact deviate from the pointy end of the turret. We've also picked up the Bruiser medal for causing damage to enemy vehicle modules or injuring crew members at least 5 times in the course of the battle, and the Fighter medal for destroying at least 4 or 5 enemy vehicles. And in this case, we're at the lower limit of that with 4 kills inflicted. Significantly, we picked up the Fire for Effect medal for causing more damage to enemy vehicles than the hit points of our own vehicle, with over 3,400 hit points of damage inflicted. A substantial amount of the damage inflicted was damage inflicted by vehicles that we could see, so we weren't playing the backline, relying on our teammates to spot for us, and accordingly, adding to that experience points to score was collecting a lot of spotting damage ourselves. Having a look at the team scores, we have placed rather significantly at top by experience. Not to take away from some of the efforts of our teammates here, we had the Bofors Tornbarn and TNH 105 that were with us in pretty well in lockstep as we pushed through that zero line. Props on Troll Tractor of the Ironsides clan on the enemy team. They had placed top on experience by a significant margin, with nearly 2,700 hit points of damage inflicted on our team, but the results would suggest that they had a fairly hard task in front of them. But having said that, when we bring our old friend XVM into the equation, the overall win rate of the enemy team had outstripped ours by a significant margin, so they certainly had a lot of potential to do better if you believe what the old stat machine says. Lastly, we looked at the detailed report, and this was quite a profitable game for us. Now, there was Big Daddy battle payments running, which gave us an extra 38,000 credits. So if I take that off, however, we're still looking at 105,000 credit profit here. A couple of things had fed into that. We weren't really in a position where we felt we needed to use premium ammunition, so we ended up with quite a cheap ammunition bill. We didn't take a horrendous amount of damage. We survived through, so that kept the repair costs down. So that was quite helpful indeed. So there it is, folks, the premium tier 8 Chinese medium tank 122 TM. Again, a result I'm super happy with, this being my worst Winrate premium tier 8 vehicle, and just one of those turds that while we might be struggling to polish it, we've certainly been able to put a gloss on it. In the meantime, some of the regular viewers might notice that we have been slowing down a little bit on the production time, but you'll probably also notice we have been trying to improve the production quality somewhat. Now, as we're trying to do that, I'm also picking up a few new techniques to try to achieve that quality a bit more efficiently. Certainly the production time on this video was a lot shorter than the preceding two, so once I'm across that and I can get into a bit of a routine with it, hopefully we'll be able to punch out a lot harder than we have been the last couple of weeks. Of course, you had a significant process change as well as COVID and secondary effects. Well, you're going to have a bit of a bad time with that, but in any case, we'll hopefully be back on track and still bringing quality content to your screens. In the meantime, take care out there.